off. If you are in witness protection, then please don't turn on your camera. Maybe voice too, because they can recognize it. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. All right, hopefully y'all can see this screen with mine and Janice's lovely faces on it right there, yeah? Anybody could say yes, it's okay. I just wanna make sure we're set up properly.
You're all good.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is the actual buyer's presentation I use when I do it, okay? This past weekend, I did a buyer's presentation from a agent referral from Maryland. So I'll show you how I do it, and then I'll show you how I used to do it. Neither way is wrong. It's just a couple of different ways, right? I told them, like, nobody wants to sit on your buyer's presentation to say how wonderful you are and all the wonderful stuff you're going to do for them. So you kind of need a hook, right? So the hook that I generally give them to get them on the regular buyer's presentation. Whoa, that's weird. Okay, go away. All right, whatever. That doesn't want to go away. Hello. Well, that didn't work. Okay, so sorry, this thing's in my way, guys. Buyer's presentation. So where'd it go? Where did it go? All right. Okay, so before I do this regular type presentation, right, I'll say, hey, I want to get on a Zoom call with you so you can show me exactly what you're looking for, right? Oh, I'm just looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, single family home in, Windermere, Winter Garden area. Okay, that's a lot of different types of homes. There's over 100 filters that I can put on your home search. I typically don't use them all. I typically use about 15 to 20. But there's all different types of search criteria that I can plug in. So we can send you exactly what you're looking for so you don't miss out on that potential home, because it's going to go quick. Once it comes up, it's going to go quick, right? So we want to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Is that okay? Yeah. You just send me what you got. Just send me all the 3-bed, 2-bath. Yeah, I just want to do a 20-30 minute Zoom so you can show me exactly what you're looking for. Would that be all right? It would save you a lot of time. Make it to their benefit, right? And then you can just simply say, hey, I want to go through this real quick just to make sure you know the service that we're going to provide, right? When you get on the Zoom. And then you're going to say, I'm going to send you this whole thing. It's 45 pages long. I'm going to send you this whole thing, right? And I've sprinkled some of my, kids' photos in here. This is back when I had hair, so it was a little bit ago. Different, like, I want people to know me, that I'm a family guy, that, me and Janice, that this is what we do, right? You're not just hiring some guy, or I'm not just some person to look at this property, look at that property. Oh, and I'm going to blow you off, right? So it's got my little bio in here, story of HomeSmart, right? And I really don't go through this. I go through the home buying process. This is the main thing, okay? And ultimately, I just want to educate you on the home buying process and make sure you know what's coming. So determine how much you can afford. If you're not paying cash, contact a local lender. I have a great lender. Now, we haven't talked about this yet, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Are you already pre-approved, or is that something you need help with? Oh, yeah, I'm already pre-approved through Chase Bank. Okay, that's great. And how did you get to Chase Bank? Oh, I've used them for years. Okay, great. A bank is a great place to get a loan, but a mortgage broker is going to shop around your rate and be your concierge. It can be a little bit more challenging to get a loan through a bank. It might not be the experience that you want. I just want to give you a second opinion on possibly the different rates that could be available to you, considering this is one of the largest purchases you're ever going to make. Is that okay? Yeah, let's do that. All right, cool. So I'm going to send you over my lender's contact information. I'm going to send you over a few. That way you got some different ones to pick from. But I'll put my top recommended person on the top. Okay. All right. You can choose whoever you want though, or you can go with Chase. That's up to you. All right. So make a list of needs and wants. So that's when we're going to go through the MLS after this and everything like that. We're gonna set that up right after we're done with this. Right. That we're done with the home buying process. We're going to make a list of your wants and needs. Choose a realtor. Hopefully that's pretty much already been done. But if for any reason at all you don't like me, for any reason, I have pretty thick skin, I'm okay with that. I can always refer you out to another person if you don't think for any reason that I don't have your best interest at heart. Okay. That way, and people will probably be like, Jeremy, why are you doing that? Okay. Well, they're going to do that anyway, right? They're going to refer themselves out if they don't think I have their best interest at heart, or that I don't have enough time for them, or whatever they got in their head, right? I try to make it sure that never happens, right? My one and only goal when I'm representing them is to do more for them. I want to ruin them for any other realtor they encounter. Okay. I want to ruin them. Okay. So I want my number one goal when I'm representing a buyer is to do more for them than any other realtor ever would. I want them to go to another realtor and then they go, we're not going to, no, nobody's going to do that for you. Well, Jeremy did. Okay. I want to ruin them. Okay. So that's my number one goal. Okay. Home search. Narrow down a list of available homes to only those who were, you choose to be, you want to see, right? Set up the tours, that sort of thing. So once we set up the MLS search, it's going to come to you as soon as those properties come on the market. And it depends, right? As soon as those properties comes on the market means I'm looking for a right now buyer. Okay. The people that I was helping this Saturday, they're not a right now buyer. They're not in a position to buy. They got to sell their house first. They're going to do a post-closing possession, that sort of thing. They're looking to buy in September. Okay. So I'm like, and I even asked them, do you want to see homes every day? Do you want to see homes every other day? I'm not going to set them up on as soon as the property comes out, they're going to get 3-4 emails a day. Right? Because that's my right now buyer. Right? So they're going to get daily emails. That's what they chose. Okay. Offer to purchase. Okay. So once we find that magical home, they're like, yeah, let's do this. Then we're going to write up the offer. Okay. It's good, especially the first time home buyers. It's good to talk them through this because they're like, oh, they're like, oh, it kind of shocks them a little bit. Like, oh, this is reality. Right. So it's good to, just bring it up. Like, hey, once we find that home that you want to move forward with, we're gonna go ahead and write up that offer to purchase that home. Oh, okay. We're gonna then negotiate, go back and forth, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now, depends on the market, right? In this market, I'm not gonna say negotiate, go back and forth. I'm gonna bring up the negotiation, but I'll say in this market, with how hot properties are and how things are going, depending on the area, depending on how long it's been on the market, we may or may not have an opportunity to negotiate. Okay. I said, I'm gonna try, but I'm gonna call the agent first and see if they have other offers on the table. Typically in this market, it's you bring your highest and best. So the most amount that you're willing to pay, you bring it, and then maybe you get the property. You want to quash any kind of thoughts that they might have of, well, wait, if I pay less price, doesn't that mean I automatically get it? Give them a for example. For example, if you find a property you like, chances are somebody else has liked the property too, right? And they're going to submit an offer. The last offer I wrote up, they had 50 plus offers on the property. We wrote 61,000 over list price, all cash, and we did not get it. So, it's a numbers game too. So I want to make sure that that just because you like the property, just because you're willing to pay at or above list price, still doesn't mean that you're going to get it. Okay, I just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay, we're going to do our best. We're going to put our best foot forward and make it as compelling as possible and competitive as possible, but you'll only have one shot typically to get it. Okay, so after the negotiations, contract sign. That means property is yours to an extent, right? There's still more that we need to go through. So after the contract signing, we need to turn over earnest money. You'll have up to 3 days to do that. And it's typically in the form of a wire. Now, before this happens, when you receive the wiring instructions, I want you to call me immediately. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not send that wire. Okay? I want you to wait. I want you to call me, and we're going to talk about the exact process. It's very, very simple, but if you do it wrong, you could lose your entire earnest money deposit. Now, if that scares you a little bit, that's exactly what I want to hear. That's exactly what I want to have happen at this point, okay? Because you should be scared. If you do it wrong, you could lose your money, and it's thousands of dollars, okay? And then typically I will speak about earnest money. I kind of skipped over that. Typically my normal spiel was about 1%, but now I try to get at least $10,000 minimum. You know, if we're talking about like a $300,000 home, so maybe 3%. It would be a good rule of thumb that I would suggest in this market. Okay. The contract signing, turn over the earnest money. After that, we got due diligence. We got home inspection. If it's on a well, possibly a well inspection, septic inspection, WDO or termite inspection. Okay. All these things cost money. Okay. And I'll typically write that out for them if I'm not doing a virtual, just so they have it. I'll say, you know, $500 to $800 for, I think I might have a slide here actually. Hold on one second. Just kidding. Okay, I made it in my mind anyway. I think this is an older version of this buyer's presentation, so please forgive me. So, okay, so due diligence, and that includes obviously the appraisal. So any inspections plus the appraisal, typically say between $500 and $800. I said, please don't think I'm a home inspector. I'm not quoting you anyone's rates, but it's between $500 to $800 for a home inspection. WDO is typically between 100 to 200 or so. Pool inspection can be additional, not always, but it can be an additional charge depending on the home inspector. Who else? What else? Well and septic, you know, that sort of thing. Septic can be anywhere from $350 to $500 is what I've seen. Well inspection is typically around $200 for them to test the water and whatnot. And then the appraisal is typically somewhere around $600. I've seen them as high as $800 though. And then these are all upfront fees before closing. You got your earnest money deposit, EMD or initial deposit. That's typically 3% of the purchase price. You got your home inspection, which typically between $500 and $600. Your WDO if you want to get a termite inspection, you know, and I'll break down all the fees and I'll write it out and I'll say, do you have this amount of money available today? You know, if not, when will it be available? Because I don't want them to get to closing. I had an older couple in December that I just assumed. Normally I know better. I mean, these folks were in their 40s. She was a doctor, right? And he had a really good job too. I just assumed that the lender had talked to them about closing costs, and they had no idea. They're like, we got the cash to close sheet. We're floored. You know, they were putting, I think, 5% down. I mean, they had it, but at the same time, like I had spent months with these people trying to help find them a home, and we finally got one under contract, and we're going through the numbers, and they were just shocked because it was, I want to say, can't remember what bank they used. I think it was SunTrust. And they were just like, oh, we didn't think about any of this stuff. We didn't know there was closing costs. I'm like, oh, your lender didn't cover it with you? I'm like, no. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? You're going to have it anywhere you go. And we were able to get past it. But sometimes like they just don't have it. So you want to make sure If they're doing FHA, I would say, do you have at least 6.5% of the purchase price? You're pre-approved up to 300,000, right? Times 6, 18, 19,000, 19, 20,000 or so, right? And I'll do the math on my calculator and say, do you have at least this much, right? Especially if they're first-time home buyers, you guys. If they're conventionally approved, I'll say 8%. So it's just whatever the minimum down is plus 3%, right? I've seen them around there typically. It's typically not over, but around 2.5 to 3% is typically what I've seen. Okay, I figured I need to keep saying typically more. Closing date. So this is where, you know, we're going to do the final walkthrough, make sure everything is as you think it's going to be. We're going to walk through the property, you know, make sure it all checks out, right? Then we're going to go to closing, and sign all the papers, and then you get your keys, you know. And this right here, this simple just explanation, this is what's missing. Like people just think there's so much mystery around buying a home, you know, and they'll be like, wow, nobody else did that for me. Wow, this person really knows their stuff. I want to work with this person. Now, I just Googled this image. I didn't create it, you know. Home buying process is what I think I typed in, you know, home buying flow chart, something like that. So you can find something like this. I mean, I can send you mine. That's not a big deal. I don't know if I have I'm sure I have the editable somewhere, but this is the PDF I'm working off right now. 10 Commandments of Purchasing. This is just handwritten out. There's fun little images that you can find. Sure, Google. Okay. That, you know, you can make it fun. You can like grab this image. You can put, you know. Okay, that's the actual 10 Commandments. Never mind. Back it up. All right. Maybe that's why I just typed out. Oh, buying a home, 10 Commandments of buying a home. Here we go. Thou shalt not change jobs before become self-employed or quit your job. Thou shalt not buy a car, a truck, or a van. All right. Or you will be living in it. Thou shalt not, you know. So these are fun images that you can find that you can put in here to make it a little more fun, if you will. But that's you know, I have the same thing here. Thou shalt not use charge cards excessively or let your accounts fall behind. Thou shalt not spend money that you have set aside for the closing. Right, all good things. I didn't go over this with like the first buyer that I was working with, like back 16 plus years ago, and they went out and bought $20,000 worth of furniture. And I was like, yeah. And the lender calls me up screaming at me, and I'm like, wait a minute, why would you expect me to go over this with my client? Well, you've been talking to them for months. Why didn't you go over it with them? Yeah, they expect you to do it. So just do it. 88 things that can go wrong with any closing. I'll pick up some of these. I'll talk about some of these and you know, this and that and the other thing. And then again, this is just to get to be the expert in their mind, right? And this is another Googleable thing, 88 things that can go wrong in any real estate transaction. Oh, look at that. So they have different, you know, ways to put it in here. There's different types, there's different fonts. You can always take this guy's, paste your name over here, paste your information over here. You know, I've seen this for years. I just made it boring. I typed it all out. It's right here. If you want to copy and paste. And again, I'll send this to anybody who wants it. And then it just goes on for the who's who of the real estate transaction, right? Lender, real estate agent, inspector, attorney, title closing officer, you know, all these people. So that I'll pretty much just stop it there. Like after I go through a few of the 88 things, lender doesn't fund on time or close in time, right? Lender doesn't, um, lender loses a form or misplaces the entire file, right? So these are all good things that we're like, oh yeah, that always happens. But like, you're not going to think to bring this stuff up, right? During your initial consultation, of course, or no, would you want to? This, 45 different pages, different MLS signs. Like, what does it mean when it's contingent, back on the market, temporarily off the market, closed, pending, expired, that sort of thing. And these are just, I mean, you can use the whole thing. I don't really care. This is my daughter. Talk about stopping the smell of flowers. That's what she did after this photo. She's like, ah, pretty. And then she like stopped and smelled the flowers. I'm like, man, I need to be more like her. So these are all photos that I've taken throughout the years, and different homes that I've sold or managed or whatever. Downtown Chicago right here. Yeah. Anybody got any questions about this? I'm going to move on to kind of how I do presentations now. 5 common home buyer mistakes. 5 property tax questions you need to ask. What's the warranty? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi, Jeremy. This is Brenda. I have like 4 questions. While you're on this presentation, do you give them a copy of this, or do you keep it on your iPad or your computer where they bring it up, or how do you do that?
I do a Zoom just like I'm doing now, and I share my screen, and then sometimes I catch them taking pictures of it or something, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to send you the whole thing. You're going to get all 45 pages.
Okay. Great. The other question is, I know in Illinois, our broker requires us to put in a buyer's agreement.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're transaction brokers here. What would you recommend? Do we have them sign an agreement? We're transaction brokers and all of that, I understand. But what do you do? What do you do as far as with your buyers? Do you have them sign a buyer's agreement?
I used to. Okay. And I mean, what honestly bothers me about it is, I don't want people to ghost me.
Right.
If they don't want to work with me and they aren't calling me back, then that's a clear sign. Doesn't mean it doesn't matter if I got a piece of paper signed or not.
Mhm.
And I think at least the majority of the people on this call know that the buyer's agreement is really not worth the paper it's written on.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I didn't used to do it either, but then it was required in Illinois. So I didn't know if we need to put that with our packet or whatever.
The exclusivity, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been 5 or 6 years since I've been licensed in Illinois. The exclusivity is not required. The broker disclosure, agency disclosure is what's required, right?
Both of those we upload into our RSA. The buyer, yes, we do have that, only because a lot of our realtors have been burnt, where they go with other realtors or they're working with, they see a property, it's listed with somebody else, they call them. If the buyer, if the realtor doesn't call them back like in 5 seconds or whatever, and so, or they're at an open house. I had a dear friend do that to me, and I just went ahead and just, I'm the type of person that, it'll come back to me as far as, the money or whatever. So, I didn't sign a agreement with her. And yeah, so.
This is the question I do ask. I say, well, it's not really a question, it's a statement. I guess there's a question next time. Anyway, so this is what I do. Instead of getting an agreement signed, I just have a verbal agreement, right? I say, look, maybe you know this and maybe you don't, but this is my sole source of income. I don't HomeSmart doesn't pay me any money if I don't help somebody buy or sell a home. So all that I ask in return for all the wonderful service that I'm going to provide to you is that you call me if you see a home, that you only work exclusively with me. And this helps me put a roof over my head for my family, put shoes on my kids' feet, put clothes on my wife's back. Is
Mhm.
that fair? Do you think that that's fair? You pay me nothing. You pay me $0 to work for you and
Mhm.
actually close. And then you're just going to pay $350. That's it.
Mhm.
That,
Okay.
is that okay? And then they'll
That's
typically be like, yeah. Or if they say no, I'll say, well, where do you work? And they say, oh, I work at, whatever company. And I say, okay, do you go to work and hope you receive a paycheck?
mhm.
Or are you guaranteed a paycheck? Oh no, I get a check every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Now, how hard would you work for somebody if you went to work and your boss was like, nah, I might pay you. Even if you do your job, I might go with somebody else.
Right.
How about that? Is that fair?
Right.
Typically, like, no. How
Right.
hard would you work for that boss? How much would you do for that person? They're like, probably not much. And so all I ask in return, I'm not asking you to sign anything, but just your word. That's all I want.
Mhm.
That if I do,
I did that with her. We're back friends. She was willing to, because what happened is she was at an open house, and he asked her, did she have a realtor?
oh,
And she said yes. And he's proceeded, she loved the house and everything, and then he had the procuring call. I mean, he showed her the property and I didn't, and so I lost out, and that was fun. I mean, it hurt. It kind of it hurt at first. I had another client just recently do that, and what happened is she ended up a realtor, I guess she met at another house that she was looking at, and she put an offer in on a house, but then it fell through, and then she came back. I said, well, you're gonna have to do a buyer's agreement with me
mhm,
this time. You
yeah,
know, I didn't do it before, but and now we're about to go under contract on a house. But that's why I asked, is it something that you would recommend? I think for me, it's not recommended, but we can do it. Is that correct?
absolutely. Can you see this
Okay.
right now?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'll show you the one that you can use if you choose to use one. I'm not saying it's bad. Like it sets the expectation. Okay. I had this conversation with a referral from another agent back maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And and he's out looking at other properties with another agent. And he's like, I'm like, hey, are you working with another agent? He's like, yeah, is that a problem? I'm like, only for you. And he's like, why? What do you mean? And I said, well, if the other agent finds you a property and you end up moving forward with that, you're going to have to pay my brokerage a commission and their brokerage a commission. Well, that's not fair. I'm like, well, why do you think that?
You're asking
Well,
me?
you tricked me. No, it was a conversation. We were going back and forth. He's like,
Okay.
you tricked me. And I'm like, you remember the conversation we had that I said, this is how I put a roof over my head and shoes on my kids' feet and everything like that. And he's like, yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah. And then I asked you to sign this agreement and you did so voluntarily. Why is that? Why do you think I'm tricking you? Now, who knows if somebody takes your client and you have a signed agreement, who knows what they're violating? Are they violating the state license law or something else? Ooh, crickets. Come on, broker Jen. Michelli. This was like pointed out in my license renewal. That's the only reason I know it, because I didn't know it before. So it is a realtor violation. It's a violation of the code of ethics.
That's what I was thinking, the code of ethics. I actually had another call come in.
No, you're
Uh,
fine.
So
Um,
it is a code of ethics violation.
yeah. So I didn't pursue it. He ended up going and purchasing with this other realtor. Um, but you know, like if I probably would have known, I probably would have brought her in front of the board. I never actually got her name. I asked for it several times, but I didn't get her name. Um, but I could have. He worked with my same lender, so I introduced the lender that he ended up working with, and he ended up closing with that lender, and it was a good friend of mine from Illinois, and so he would have told me, but I didn't press it. I was just like, you know what, um, I didn't do the job he expected me to do, so it's on me.
Hey, Jeremy, that's a slippery slope too, because if you try to do an ethics violation against another agent, typically you have to pull your customer into the mix. And that really becomes kind of a turn off, and then they start telling other people. So it's a catch-22. It's not the perfect scenario. But I do use that buyer's agreement only when I list a home. Because, especially in today's market, they're all saying, well, so-and-so up the street will list it for 5% or 4%, whatever. And I'll say, okay, I will match that, but I need to represent you when you purchase your next home. And it's worked very well for me.
Okay, thank you, Scott. So who can tell me which is the proper exclusive buyer agency agreement? It is on the screen.
Transaction broker.
Yeah, yep. It says transaction broker, but there's two transaction brokers on the screen.
Let's see. I can't see the screen. It's kind of small. Let me see if I can.
Are you on your phone, Brenda?
No, I'm on my laptop. I need my glasses. That's what it is. It's
Okay.
transaction broker agreement, exclusive buyer broker agreement, transaction broker.
Good. So can someone besides Brenda tell me why not the exclusive buyer broker agreement consent to consent to transition to transaction broker?
What was your question?
Why can't I use the exclusive buyer's agency agreement consent to transition to transaction broker?
Because we are transaction brokers.
But we're not exclusive with them to begin with.
Well, we're consent to transition, right? Means you're something else besides transaction broker.
Right.
You're only allowed to be transaction broker. So you want to use the exclusive buyer broker agreement transaction broker because that's a transaction broker from start to finish, right? The other one on the top is saying your single agent can, transitioning, getting permission from your buyer to transition to transaction broker. Okay, so this is the one here that you're supposed to use right here. Okay, it labels all your duties that you're supposed to do and take care of and all that fun stuff. Broker obligation right here. Use skill, knowledge, care, that sort of thing, right? Okay, so this is the one to use if you choose to use it. There's nothing wrong with it, I've done this with friends, with family, just and sometimes they'll have more respect for you, right? And some people will say, well, why do I need to do this? Well, I wouldn't list your home without some sort of agreement, and I don't work without buying. I say, well, I put so much time and effort into working with my buyers that I can only take on 5 to 6 buyers at a time. Right now, I have 4, I have 5 is what I'll say, right? I can only take on one more serious buyer who's willing to sign this agreement. So if it's not you, that's fine, but it just means we can't work together. Because I used to, when I worked for Keller Williams, I had, well, let me back up. I worked for Baird Warner when I first started, which is a brokerage just out of Illinois. They were licensed in Wisconsin, but I don't think they do it. I could be wrong. Maybe they're licensed in Wisconsin still. But they've been around since like 1885. Okay. And they would they made it like mandatory. Well, sort of, pretty much. Let's just put it that way. And they like helped me with the whole spiel and everything like that. And I got pretty. No, I'm lying. I'm sorry. Back it up. I'm sorry. I went downtown to their, training, their 2 weeks, and they encouraged us to use the buyer's agency agreement, exclusive buyer's agency. I didn't do it. I was just the crackerjack agent. I'd do floor time. I'd take leads. I'd go out, run out, show them a property, never hear from them again. Right. I went to Keller Williams. I was still struggling a bit. I went to family reunion at Keller Williams where they, have all those kind of training stuff. It's like HomeSmart's version is like the summit, right? So I went there, and the big one takeaway was I'm going to use exclusive buyer agency agreement with every single person. And I'm not going to run out and just show them a property. I'm going to meet with them in the office first, and I'm going to take them through the whole thing. I'm going to show them my value, right? I'm going to take them through the whole buyer's presentation, talk about their 5 must-haves in a house, get to know them, set them up on an MLS search right away, blah, 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 right? Just in case that one home is not the home for them, right? So I changed my process altogether, and I would just absolutely flat out refuse. And probably like 95% of people would sign my buyer's agreement, and the 5% that wouldn't eventually coughed it up and said, well, my aunt is an agent, or my brother, sister, cousin, or whatever the case may be, is an agent, and they're ultimately going to write it up. So they were just going to waste my time anyway, right? So the hour or so that it took me to do the buyer's presentation saved me a ton of time, because all those people who weren't serious, they just went away. I even had a good friend of mine, Donald, and Donald, can't remember his last name right now, but I was out showing him properties, and then I went to family reunion. I came back, and then I'm like, hey man, let's just get something official in writing. Let's do the exclusive buyer's agency agreement. He's like, well, my aunt's an agent. She was going to write it up for me. I'm like, what? Like, you mother. Yeah. So it's fine to use with friends, with family, with the random internet buyer that you get a hold of. It sets something in place of, hey, this is official, right? We're making it Facebook official now. We're not just dating. Okay. So especially new agents, I encourage you to use this. I encourage you to do the buyer's presentation. Take them through that flow chart. Show them your value. Show them how much you know, even if you're just reading off the slides. Okay. We got some questions in the chat. Definitely have to have that conversation. Fourth one, the screen is blurry. Your screen is blurry. Fourth one? What do you mean, fourth slide?
No, it isn't. Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
When we were up in Illinois, you had to have an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement because there were people fighting over commissions because they showed them the house in an open house.
Huh?
And then they wanted part of that commission or all of that commission. So there was a lot of agents that were fighting over commissions. And then they came out with the exclusive buyer broker agreement. And they said that they're using it in California and we need to use it here, because then there won't be any argument once those forms are signed. Most of the time, the consumer does not sign 2 forms. They only sign 1.
Uh-huh.
That better be yours.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Well, that's good.
So after we have the exclusive buyer broker agreement signed, do we send it to the RSA? I mean, give it to HomeSmart to keep in our file? I think, because I used to just keep it in my file. And then I said, you know what, let me cover myself so that, HomeSmart can see it. So we put it in our file, right? Correct?
Well, this is what I got to say about that. Okay, let's go to RSA real quick. Let me show you. Okay, let's say I just start working with a buyer, like Saturday. I did a Zoom presentation on Saturday. Again, didn't ask them to sign anything, but oh my God. And this was not intentional. We ended up chatting for an hour and a half. They're like, oh, we gotta go. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I look down at the clock, it's 11:30. We started at 10, and I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, wow, it was a real pleasure. And then like, you know, a couple of texts after it. Oh my gosh, Jeremy, we're so looking forward to working with you. God bless you. You know, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. So, problem is, where do you put it? It's not a transaction. You don't have a signed sale agreement yet. So where do you put it?
I put it in the sales part. They require us to put it in the sales part.
But if you don't have a sale yet, I mean, absolutely. When you got them under contract to purchase a home, yeah, turn it in with all your sales stuff. Yeah, please do. But if you just have, like, let's say I talked with these people on Saturday and I said, look, I only work exclusively with people who work exclusively with me because I put so much time and energy into helping buyers, especially in this market, right? Everyone can understand that. Okay, so great. So,
They require us to put it in the create a sale. And then we just create something with their name on it. And it's not completed, obviously, just like your listing is not completed. So we just put it in the sale part, just so we can have all our documents there and we upload it there.
I mean, I guess you could try, but this is the problem I see, right? What are you going to put down for all the required fields? What's the street address? If you just have a buyer's agreement, you don't have a fully executed contract yet with the purchase.
Maybe you just put, you know, not a street address. Maybe, I don't know what I put, but I do put it in.
Okay. I completely 100% agree. Yep. Turn it over to us, right? The brokerage. But if you email it to me, I'm going to lose it. I'm telling you right now, the amount of emails I get in a day. Well, I'll put it in your file. Like I got a file for everyone's name, right?
Right,
If you
exactly.
email times, like I think Brenda has her own file. Yep, see, Brenda Lark right there.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't obviously done many emails. We got 3 emails going back and forth there.
Right.
You know, that I save. Like if it's not anything, then I save. Oh, look, Scott wants my buyer's presentation. Okay, I'll try to find the most recent ones, Scott. Because I got like a transaction breakdown. I have like a for example. I don't know why I pulled this up. It's not here. A for example, and I'll say $300,000 sale, FHA conventional or whatever, and I'll put like the amount down, and then I'll put in like home inspection and yada yada yada. That might have been when I was with Coldwell Banker, so I think that's why Janice didn't send over that one because it's got all the Coldwell Banker branding on it. But yeah, I'll try to find that one and send it over to everyone who's requesting it.
right. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, that's pretty much it as far as I want to talk about that. Brenda, did you have more questions? You said 4
I
originally.
just had another question about, you said for the deposit to call you first for the wiring and all of that before we do that. Because I'm about to do a transaction coming up and I just want to make sure I get, you know, it's safe. So call you when the buyer is about to put a deposit down, right?
No, I was like speaking like I was speaking to my buyer. Okay. So this is the basic.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. So let's say it's consumer title.
Mm-hmm.
Consumer title and escrow services, our preferred partner, right? So they send the wiring instructions. You say, okay, great. So this is what you say to your buyer. Okay, I want you to go to Google. Unfortunately, my broker won't let me do this for you. Otherwise, I would. There's just too much liability. I want you to go to Google. You type in consumer. Oh, I know there's no B there. typo. And whoop, it just came up. Okay, right there, escrow services. Okay, because emails can get hacked. The title instructions that are coming over can look like they're coming from a different place. Okay, and that's the whole purpose, right? If I send you fraudulent wiring instructions and you send me the money, it's gone. That's it. Okay, but if I say, okay, I got the wiring instructions. Now I'm going to call, because what's the likelihood that they set up a Google My Business, called it the same exact thing, and then place the number in several different organic spots? What's the likelihood of that? Slim to none, right?
Right.
Okay. So if I just Google the name of the company, the Google My Business profile typically comes up, right? The number's right here. And I'll maybe do a Zoom with them, or I'll be on the phone with them while they're doing it and verify that I got the same phone number too, right? Okay, so I got this number. So now what I want you to do, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is I want you to call Consumer Title. This is the phone number. We both agree, right? This is the phone number right here, 727-539-0900. And I want, okay, I have the wiring instructions I need to verify.
Okay.
Okay, great. They'll call you up, or they'll say, go ahead and read them off. And then you say, you give the account number, the this, the that, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, yep, that's correct. Then you're going to go to your bank, whether you go in person, whether you can do it on the phone. Some banks are different. Some, everyone has their own rules and regulations and everything like that. Some you absolutely need to come in. They're going to be very cautious about this. They're going to be like, wait, hold on, we got to verify. So they're going to verify for you as well. But we verified, they verified. It's like a double verification. It's really safer than doing a check if you do it properly. But if you don't verify, it can go very, very wrong.
Okay.
Okay. And if Brenda, if you have any questions about this process, or you want me on the line explaining this for the first time, let's do it. Okay.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything else? I'm going to try to send you, I think I have it on slides. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to send you an editable version. So, I don't really care if you want to, can't minimize. Okay. I don't really care if you want to take all my photos and leave them in there and just put your face and your name over everything. That's great. That's great. As long as you're doing something. Because I'll tell you what, you guys, anytime I've done that presentation and then I go on the MLS and that's it. They're mine. I don't have to worry about them going anywhere else because nobody does it. Nobody does that. So if they go anywhere else after that, I've not done my job, or they're just unloyal jerks.
All right.
Woo. And I've been burned down here. I had a good friend, Tony. Notice how I said had. I'm not as forgiving as Brenda. Yeah. Tony, yeah. He called me up. I didn't even do the buyer's presentation for him, which was my bad. Right. And he called me up, and like the next day he went out and bought a home with another realtor. And he was one of the first people I met down here. Because I lived in an apartment complex and our kids played together at the pool and everything like that. We got to be good friends. We were going out for each other's birthdays and stuff like that. And then, just, hey, Jeremy, I'm ready to buy a house. Cool. I set him up on a search. I didn't do my normal process, right? He told me 3-bed, 2-bath. I did that. I didn't get on a Zoom with him, anything like that, right? And I lost him. I didn't do my job. I shouldn't be mad at him. I should be mad at me, right? I had this woman named Tracy. No good reason there. I did everything right. I got her to sign the buyer's agreement. I did the buyer's presentation. I think, some people lose faith. Like their loan got denied at the end of the day. And they ended up buying a lot further south than I typically would go. But at the time I was building back up, and I probably would have represented, even though it was like an hour and a half south of here, wherever that is. And then the other guy was Pablo, and he was just a jerk. I was even thinking about not working with him from the get-go because he was just rude, you know. And I was like, why am I? But yeah, I should have dropped him.
So my question, so paperwork is just my confusion, I guess. So the paperwork all goes to the title company as well as copying copying the buyer on the and the listing or agent on it, correct?
Brenda, the best, yes, is the short answer. But the best way you can think about it, the way I thought about it when I first came down here, is the title company is my attorney now.
Okay.
Which is not true, but right, if you're representing a buyer, right, you send it over to the buyer and the attorney. So just
And
over to the-
upload it to the RSA too. I mean, yeah, send it to when it's approved. And
Yeah.
then the other, okay, so that the contract. So then at closing, do we still close in person or are we closing online still? I mean, obviously we have to do the walkthrough with the buyer.
Mhm.
But can you do buyer's agents still close in person with the buyer?
Do buyers agents still close in person with the buyer? It depends. If I have, oh gosh, it's been so long since I had an actual buyer. So yeah, so I did. Yes is the short answer. Okay, but a lot of times it's a mobile closer now, so it's wherever your buyer wants to close.
Yeah, because I was just thinking so it's safer. So the listing agent, I'm just thinking about Fort Myers right now because I'm getting ready to do a deal there. But the Fort Myers, so that closing agent or the agent has connected to a closing a title company that's in Fort Myers. So the closing would happen at the title company, right? Correct. But if I'm a seller, okay, say for instance, I sold a property in Naples,
Mhm.
and I'm working with consumer title.
Mhm.
They will send someone down to Naples to close it? Or
Yeah.
how does that work? Or it'll be virtual? I mean,
A
it'll
lot of times there's less restrictions with sellers. So it's typically like, here, e-sign this. I think sellers can get away with like e-signing documents.
yeah, okay, that's
I
true.
typically never go to where I'm representing the seller, the closing, because they're like, oh, we already signed it. I'm like, oh, okay, great. But
Mhm.
buyers, if they're local, right? I did a bunch of closings in December, like 6, and 5 of those were buyers. So I'm trying to think what. Anytime we could go to the closing, even though they were like, no, you're not allowed to go to the closing because of COVID, we did. We showed up anyway. We did. So I would highly recommend you do. But if they're not local and they're not going to be there, then no. Like if you have like an Illinois buyer or something like that, and they're not going to be physically down here when they close, then it doesn't need to be done.
Okay, gotcha.
I always look for the opportunity to be there, though. Again, I want to do more for them than anybody ever would.
Me too. That's me as well.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for attending this session of Coffee with the Broker. Hopefully you enjoyed your coffee this morning. If not, then what's wrong with you? Go out there and get some coffee. All right. And go sell some houses, by the way. Come on now. Let's do this. Bye, everyone. Have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for coming. Bye.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye, everyone.